Well. Good afternoon, West Ham fans. It's Hammers Headlines in association with the KUMB.com boys. Three stories as per usual. Let's get into them. And actually, just before we start, Alloy Collectors have their Black Friday deal. It's starting today, my friends. If you want any lovely shirts, we've got the 1965 what's it called, metal shirt. We've got this season's home and away kits as well, all available through the website, at alloycollectors.co.uk, and there is 20% off. 20% off with a special code on the website. So go and check that out. And there's obviously a multi-buy as well. A multi-buy, you lucky buggers. So if you buy two, 25%, three, 30%. Bargain. There's your Secret Santa all sorted, because there's different clubs on there. So you might be, obviously, we're West Ham fans. You might be a Spurs fan or a Chelsea fan. Bosh. Job done. So go and check them out, and great boys as well, as per usual. Let's go and talk Hammers Headlines, and let's talk about international break. There we go. Obviously, we are currently in international break with West Ham not being able to ruin our weekends for the next 2 weekends, obviously, because we play Newcastle on the Monday. Now, there was two West Ham players went head-to-head yesterday in international duty as Dinos Mavropanos' Greece met Jarrod Bowen's England in a vital Nations League Group B2 fixture. Arguably, it's Bowen who can have the bragging rights this time as the three lions. That's how you're going to win. 3 irons. 1966, 3 irons. Won 3-0 at the Olympic Stadium in Athens. And that's Greece's 100% record coming to an end after 4 wins out of the opening 4 fixtures. Mavropanos was starting, earning his 32nd cap, but he couldn't prevent them ending their 5-game unbeaten run. Bowen was introduced in the 66th minute, and maximum points for England. They play Ireland on Sunday in the final group stage. Elsewhere, Sean Moore from the academy marked his latest international milestone after playing just over an hour in the Republic of Ireland under-21 side, as they lost 2-0 at the hands of Sweden. Lucas Paqueta came off the bench in the second half as Brazil were held to a 1-1 draw against Venezuela. Elsewhere, Michail Antonio was absent through suspension because he accumulated too many yellow cards, a naughty man, and his Jamaican side were narrowly beaten 1-0 by United States in the first leg of their CONCACAF Nations League quarter-final tie in Kingston Town. So, relatively unscathed at the moment. Got another round to get through, though. Talking about being unscathed and not necessarily for the benefit, I mentioned this afternoon, actually, in the lunchtime show. We spoke about a report coming out saying players weren't necessarily convinced, senior players weren't convinced with Lopetegui and Soufal moaning about not getting enough minutes, the minutes he was promised by Lopetegui. But it does seem that we could be signing a injured player. This could be the new Scott Mean, who we bought with a broken leg, if I remember correctly. But apparently, and a player we've been linked to before, in Fenerbahce's Jaden Oosterwolde. Now, apparently, Fenerbahce are open to the possibility of selling him for around £16.6 million in January. That's according to the Turkish newspaper report in Sabah. And they reported via their website yesterday that the Hammers, as well as Crystal Palace, Roma, are eyeing a move for the left back in the winter, despite him being sidelined for potentially the rest of the season. This is where it sort of definitely enters into West Ham territory. Now, they were apparently unwilling to sell him, the 23-year-old Dutch-born player, but they have loosened their stance. The manager, Jose Mourinho, is a massive fan of his as well, which is great. But the stance on the Dutchman has changed somewhat, having suffered a cruciate ligament injury towards the end of October. And this is possibly why Fenerbahce wants to cash in on the fullback who can also play centre back as well, while his value is still relatively high, which apparently is highlighted by obviously the interest in from the likes of West Ham, Crystal Palace. I think Spurs are also interested in him as well. Obviously, we've got Aaron Cresswell, Emerson as two sort of senior left backs rather, but both are in their 30s, and Cresswell was likely to leave at the end of the season due to obviously his contract coming to an end. But it's definitely time for an upgrade. We've upgraded the right hand side arguably with Wan-Bissaka, so it's the left hand side, and Jaden could be the man, albeit you wouldn't necessarily see him until the next season. So, I mean, he's a good player. He's a good player before he got injured, but it is a massive risk. The cruciate ligament is a really it can be a major injury, and there will be risk involved. I don't know how you pass a medical if you're out for the season with cruciate. It's a very West Ham signing, but it could be one which could benefit us next season rather. With Cresswell gone, Emerson may be relegated, so to speak, to a number 2 slot, and then Jaden hopefully firing all cylinders. We'll wait and see, but it's very much West Ham, isn't it? Let's sign a player who is actually out injured, rather than necessarily sign a player who then gets injured, like Nicholas Füllkrug. And talking about one of our signings, Guillermo Rodriguez. Now, I think it's fair to say he's struggled, I think, adapting to the Premier League. And obviously he was sensational for Real, very good player for Real Betis. Hence why we signed him. And I thought it was a bit of a coup, really. He's an Argentine international, just won the World Cup. And likes of Barcelona and other sides were after him, and we nabbed him. But there is a claim in the Spanish publication Sport that he's not in the best state mentally at the moment in terms of his sort of transition from La Liga into the Premier League, and apparently Rodriguez, according to the article, is not enjoying his experience in the Premier League, finding it hard to adjust to the physicality, to the pace. Now, I actually thought the last game, I thought Everton, he actually played quite well, because he played in the position I think he should play in if we're going to play him, in that he just literally pretty much stayed in front of the back four and was just pinging balls and was doing it with relative ease. It's when he comes forward, because the lack of pace sort of really does come to the forefront on the counter-attack from the opposition. Now, it's worth noting that he started apparently every single Premier League game under Julien Lopetegui, and it's a bit of a shock, really, in terms of if this article turns out to be true, that he's not enjoying playing in England, not enjoying the experience for someone who's started every Premier League game this season. Some of that I think is due to circumstance as well, in that Alvarez has obviously started the season unfit and took a few games for him to get back from coming from injury, from his time in Mexico, then suspension as well. Lopetegui changing the system around, maybe playing Rodriguez in positions that aren't sort of his forte. But it's a shame, really, because a lot of players do suffer the same problem. I think not everyone, but a lot suffer from that move from La Liga to the Premier League. Some have had to adapt. Look at Pablo Fornals, for example. He's actually gone back to La Liga, but he had to adapt. We bought him as a 10, and he left as an 8 or as a 6. He played wing back as well as a 3. But he still had to adapt. Whereas someone like Rodriguez, I think he's a little bit too long in the tooth to adapt his game. So it's always like, okay, well, how do we fit him within what we do? And I think the best thing is just to sit in front of the back four and add that extra experience. You could see, again, it was alleged when Barcelona were looking at him, they saw him as the next, what's his name? Oh my God, my brain has turned to mush. Busquets. As the next Busquets, in that and that's the role. So he wasn't the quickest person in the world, but he just sat in the front of the back four, pinging balls, and that's how you need to utilize Guerrero. I don't necessarily need to start every game. Alvarez should be his position, with Guerrero being the person who comes on to replace Alvarez or to add a bit more solidity if we're trying to hold the game, or Alvarez gets suspended or injured, then Guerrero comes in. That's how I would use him. But apparently not enjoying life in England at the moment. And that is it, my friends. Thank you very, very much, as always, for listening to me rambling on for the last 10.5 minutes. If you like what we do, don't forget to give it a like, give it a comment, give it a share. As Ralph always does, just put us across Amazon for the engagement. As a stuff like your favourite emoji, your favourite West Ham related emoji. I want bubbles. I want irons, pile of poo. All of them. And don't forget also to check out leagueatmotherbrand.com for latest news, reviews, and opinions. And don't forget to check out Alloy Collectors for their Black Friday deal. 20% off the entire site, I believe, by using the code on the website. And then the more you buy, the more you save. So if you want to, if you've got a bunch of people you need to buy Secret Santas for other clubs as well, get involved, because you're going to save yourself a little bit of money as well, which is what we like to do here. Take care, stay safe, stay warm, stay humble. Keep the faith. Come you wines. Much love.